forward.
Yeah, it's a couple of things that are going on here. I'm glad you brought up the Beckham stuff. It's just nonsensical to think that a team is better off. I mean, it's just nonsense. If you're saying that, you just don't know football. You don't know what you're talking about. So that's the first thing. Second thing I would say on Odell is for what we saw, if you remember when he first came here, what we saw in early camp of 2019 before the injury was someone who was uncoverable. Yep. And then the injury happened, and then he was never himself, and he still had a 1,000-yard season. This year, as hard as he worked to get back to healthy, to get back to his greatness, and the type of separation that he was creating on the reg in this offense, that you can't replace that. But it's beyond that. He's an incredible teammate. And we've cited several things in terms of first to celebrate with Harrison Bryant. The first two, he was the guy on the sidelines saying, we have to be better than this against Pittsburgh. He is one of the leaders of this team. It's undisputable. And it just breaks your heart from a competitor standpoint that how fickle life is, right? Like you work so hard to get back, and then in just a freak play chasing down after an interception, you blow out a knee, and it breaks your heart because you know how hard these guys work. So that's the first part of it. The second part, it was critical. It was critical for this team. It was critical for our quarterback. It was critical for this offense to be able to chase. We kept saying, how can you chase a game? Is this team able to go chase a game? What will it look like? We asked Coach about that. Like, what's it look like? You're not going to do better than what you got in the fourth quarter. You had to consistently chase that Cincinnati Bengals team. And I got news for you. We'll be doing this a lot with them. That kid that plays quarterback for them is the real deal. And so you're going to be doing this a lot with them. And there's going to be a lot of games like this that are classic. Here's what I know. Baker's now 2-0, and the Browns are 2-0 against the Bengals with Joe Burrow. But these will be shootouts. These will be incredibly competitive going forward. The other thing is, you are 5-2. You have a 75% chance of making the playoffs. The playoffs. You are 5-2. You are a Raiders win from going back-to-back 3-1, 3-1 in the first two quarters of the season. I mean, that's where you are. Now, for those who say, okay, but can you do it against Baltimore? Can you do it against Pittsburgh? Can you do it against Tennessee? Well, we'll find out. We'll find out. But I also think there isn't anybody who went into this season with this team and said, go win the Super Bowl.
No.
That was never the goal. This is a build. It is a build. In one off season, Andrew Berry, look what he's done at tight end. Look what he's done on the offensive line. Look at how the offense has changed in terms of what you're able to do. You think he can't do the same in the defense next offseason with some of the issues that are occurring there? My bet is he can. My bet is he can. You are building towards that. You don't have to be a Super Bowl contender this year. For crying out loud, be a playoff team. That was the goal. You're well on the path to be able to do so. And you do so in dramatic fashion in a game. You and I were texting back and forth, brother. The amount of negativity that would have been around this, because there are people who I think just can't wait to get negative. If this doesn't go this way, you can't get more different than the season. And we're having to be muted, pure joy, because of, sadly, what happened to Odell.
Yeah, and that's it. It does put a damper on it, right? You could be very excited. I was very excited after the game. And I'll tell you, being there, that was the first time all season in a live environment, not to say where you knew what was it. The team had the ball down with a minute left, having to make a drive. The crowd was loud. It felt like a big moment. It felt like, I imagine, since I haven't been on the sidelines for one yet, but what I would feel like a playoff type of a moment felt, because you knew how important this game was to win for the Browns. 5-2 and 4-3 are so very, very different, because now all of a sudden the pressure is to win. So you don't go 4-4 in the first half after beginning 3-1. And so, or 4-1, I'm sorry. This was a massive one, and they came through. And that's why there was so much relief, because everybody knew in that stadium, and certainly on the Browns sideline, how important that next minute would be to the feeling, to the vibe, to the future, to the potential for the end of this season. And to come through on a drive in which you threw 4 passes. First of all, the first one, to step out of that blitz, that there was a free man. It was a great, very well disguised and designed blitz by the Bengals. There was a free man. He steps out of it. Your final 4 plays go Donovan Peoples-Jones, Hollywood Higgins, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Those guys were healthy inactives together early in the season. Yeah. And now they're the ones who are making the biggest plays for you. Not only did you do this without Odell, you did it without Austin Hooper, who is a Pro Bowler in his own right, who had been a stud. Harrison Bryant steps up. Chief steps up. 5 passing touchdowns on the day. 5. None of them to Jarvis Landry. But Jarvis, what he does, immeasurable.
Jeez.
Immeasurable.
God.
Not only does he catch it, not only does he run block, not only does he run it himself, not only does he throw it, his getting Harrison Bryant on the line for the spike at the end of the game, that 10-second runoff, 5 yards, changes everything. You're trying to kick a field goal to tie the game. Instead, you get to go win it. With that headiness from Jarvis Landry.
You saw it last night from Larry Fitzgerald, and you saw it from Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry is the engine, man. He is as smart as any football player that I've ever seen, because explain to people that, because I don't know if people understood. I've seen it going around on social, but for those listening, if Harrison Bryant does not get to the line of scrimmage, isn't there's 16 seconds left on the clock at that point?
Yep.
So there's 16 seconds left on the clock. If he doesn't get on the line, in the beginning, Harrison, it looks like he's kind of arguing with Jarvis, and Jarvis is emphatic. Get on the line. Get up. Get up. He does. Because he does, you get the spike, which was Baker's only incompletion after the first quarter. You get the spike, and you get the shot. If Harrison Bryant doesn't get to there, and he's a rookie, that things are happening fast. If it doesn't, 10-second runoff, and it's as soon as the ball is snapped, it's live. Correct?
Correct. So you would have to have the field goal team run out there.
Not snapped.
Right.
They'd have to sprint out. The field goal team would have had to sprint out as
the penalty was,
they're winding it,
as
snap
the flag
it in
was thrown.
5 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been mayhem. Mayhem. And it's not.
And that would have been
because Jarvis does his business.
Right.
He's unbelievable. He's unbelievable.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. We've said it. Brown for life, hopefully, and a guy that today is happy he is about this win is somebody who is feeling great sadness. His Instagram post to Odell was very powerful and touching, and you just know how much it means to him because, again, he knows. And that's the other thing. We know how hard, just from talking to the guys, from seeing him, talking to Odell himself, how hard he worked for this year. And, the NFLPA put out a statement today, I don't know if you saw it, basically demanding that the league get rid of all artificial surfaces, only grass. Because the studies have now proven the higher instant rate of injury occurring on turf fields versus grass. Odell's, we know, in Cincinnati, outdoor stadium, that is a turf field. It doesn't have to – he's just running. It's not like he's doing much. Now, to be totally fair, injuries occur on all surfaces. We lost Grant Delpit out here on our grass practice fields doing absolutely nothing, by the way. But there are enough scientific studies that in the interest of player safety, the NFLPA has now called for the removal of all turf. Obviously, I think this would have to be something that would happen for the 2021 season, but there was an official NFLPA statement to that effect, and obviously J.C. Tretter, our center, plays a big role in that. And by the way, speaking of J.C. Tretter, I thought he was done. I thought he was done on that same play. He was on the ground, on his knees, crawling, hobbling. Just the incredible toughness to not be done is stunning and just very, very impressive. Very impressive. He is such an Iron Man, such a leader, and then you see him even pulling on some of the tosses to Kareem. Just a stud to have on our team. And that's what you saw, just a lot of people, making big plays. And look, as I said post-game,
played his butt off.
To win a shootout means there are other issues.
Yeah.
It doesn't just go, you don't have touchdown, 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 unless there are some issues that need to be addressed. But you had the ball last, and you got it done. You came through in a very adverse circumstance where your quarterback made an incredible play on first down. Hollywood Higgins makes a brilliant play using his mind on second down to roll out of bounds and stop the clock. Makes an unbelievable catch in a one-on-one situation on a perfect throw from Baker on the net third play, and then the fifth play after the spike being the fourth. Perfect read. They played cover one robber. That's the same defense the Steelers played on the pick six to Minkah Fitzpatrick. They played it. He diagnosed it. He went away from the single high safety. Bates couldn't get over there, gave Donovan Peoples-Jones a chance. And DPJ, I mean, there's so many fun storylines to talk about, but how about a fourth-rounder and a sixth-rounder catch 3 of your touchdown passes in week 7 of their rookie seasons? DPJ was inactive at the beginning of the year. DPJ, not only had he not caught a pass prior to this week, they'd never even thrown him a ball in a game.
Mm-hmm.
Catches all 3 thrown his way.
Yep. Big time plays. It's big time. And, you mentioned some of the issues. I keep saying to myself, well, we can't rely. You can't count, not rely. You can't count on Myles Garrett to wreck a game every week. Maybe you can. Maybe you can. Maybe he will wreck a game every week. He is his level of play right now, it's him and Aaron Donald on a different plane from everybody else. The idea that he gets a strip sack fumble every week, folks, this isn't normal.
Not normal.
This isn't normal. This is not what people do. It's not sustainable. You would think, but he does it every week. It's a stunning level that Myles Garrett is playing at. I thought Denzel Ward was spectacular in this game as well with a lot of the plays he made. That being said, they were able to go up and down. And so to your point, there are things that need to be fixed, but it's better to fix them at 5-2 after a win than it would be in any other way.
It was, you're right. You had to have it. You did get it. Remarkable. And I can't wait to break that. I can't wait for the Hoff to join us. Joe Thomas.
Hoff will join.
And we're going to get into all of this. There's so much to get into, but it was one of those you had, in 1 minute, you had an opportunity to significantly increase your playoff chances, and you did it on the back of your quarterback, who was at this point, a week ago at this time? 1 week ago. He was under siege, brother. I mean,
3 hours after
siege.
He led the drive. 3 hours previous to the game-winning drive, he's under siege. That first quarter.
0 for 5 with an interception. Quarterback rating after that moment, perfect 158.3.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And it's a lot of fun. And with that win, Tito's Handmade Vodka proud to support the Cleveland Browns through the Tito's Victory Vodka program. $1,000 donation to Wags for Warriors, helping provide service dogs for veterans at no cost to the veteran. Thank you, Tito's. Remember, please enjoy Tito's Handmade Vodka responsibly. Coming up next, you'll hear Coach Stefanski from his presser. Bottom of the hour, the Hoff joins us for the Joe Thomas Hour. It's a Victory Monday edition of Cleveland Browns Daily right here on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
The Bengal 3. Mayfield waits, takes the snap, back, looks, throws, caught, touchdown, Harrison Bryant. And the Browns are a kick away from tying it up. It's the rookie's second touchdown catch of the year.
Ready?
Yep.
You're up.
Man, it's great to hear Jimmy Donovan on those calls. So much fun. Been talking about Northeast for a long time. Still have people ask me if they just had cheap stuff, and the answer emphatically is no. No, they do not. I know a little thing about furniture. My wife's family's been in it for nearly 100 years. Northeast Factory Direct carries high-quality, name-brand furniture. We carry a lot of these. Flex Steel, England, Klausner, and more, plus 2 really nice lines of custom furniture, great style selection, many fabric options. They can customize it to fit your house. Also have Amish furniture made right here in Ohio, and you're not going to get a higher quality than that, and it costs so much less than the other places. My man Alex so confident in his prices. He's offering a 1-year best price guarantee. If you buy furniture or hot tubs from Northeast within 1 year, if you find it advertised for less, he's going to refund you the difference. You can see the store for details or check out northeastfactorydirect.com and check them out in person. West 140th Street in Cleveland, Lakeland Boulevard in Euclid, Freeway Drive in Macedonia. Or shop them online anytime at northeastfactorydirect.com. Here's your coach, Kevin Stefanski, with his Monday debrief with the media. A lot of injury updates, not just Odell, but some of the other guys who have been injured on our roster. Let's have a listen.
Yes, I know you guys
Both down.
on Odell. Incredibly disappointed for him. I know injuries are part of this game, but I just hate to see that. So I'm obviously wishing him a very speedy recovery. You know, he rehabbed like crazy this past offseason, coming off of a surgery and was ready to go. So I really think he'll attack that, but obviously very disappointed for him. Going back to the game, after watching the tape, you know, we made some plays there at the end to go win the ball game. We knew it was going to be a close one. We anticipated that throughout the week. And I thought the guys situationally really handled that moment. There's always things to clean up. I know we want to do better and get them off the field when we're on defense. Those are some things that we're going to talk about and find ways to get off the field. But really a good team win going on the road in the division and getting a W. With that, I'll take any questions.
Do you think, will it help to, is Kadero ready to come back off of IR, and is he somebody that can help you? And then just also from, just from the skill set standpoint, all the different things that Odell can do for you, it seems like you'd need a small village to sort of make up for all the different roles he plays in your offense. So how will you handle that?
Yeah, I do anticipate Kadero Hodge coming back this week. He's on schedule and he's progressing. And then, like you said, it's you never replace a player of Odell's caliber with one player. That's just, we're not doing that with Nick Chubb. It's going to take multiple guys to replace these players. So that's kind of the challenge that we have, and I think our guys will be up to the challenge.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Kevin. I think you just touched upon it a little bit, though. In dealing with Nick's injury, that was kind of not a devastating blow for your guys, but it's something that they had to deal with, and now they're having to deal with another one. What message do you give to your players, Kevin, beyond what you've already done in terms of losing a player that means so much to this team, not only in what he brings just by suiting up, but from a leadership standpoint as well? He's really kind of emerged this year as one.
No doubt. And Odell, the energy he brings to practice, the energy he brings to games, you can't, no one else is going to be able to bring that type of juice. But it's our job to find the guys that can go compete, that we can go put them in spots where they can succeed. And I think we'll be able to do that. That's not easy. I don't want to have to do it. And I'm very disappointed for Odell. But that's the nature of this beast, and injuries are part of this game, and doesn't mean any of us have to like it, but we do have to deal with it.
Do you have an update on Austin Hooper, and you expect him to be able to play Sunday?
Truth is, we don't know, Nate. He's improving, feeling better, but that will be something that becomes more apparent later in the week.
You have a better feel for Nick Chubb and where he's at in his timetable?
Honestly, not really. I think, we won't have him this week, so we'll have that bye week and really reassess. I know this. He's, as you can imagine, attacking this thing. He's working very, very hard. And I know he's on schedule, and I wouldn't be shocked if he's ahead of schedule.
Hey, Coach, don't mean to be the downer, but nobody's really talked about the defense, and you've been giving up over 30 points a game. Do defense gave up 2 leads in the fourth quarter. What can you guys do to get off the field?
Well, I also want to give our defense credit for taking the ball away. They're doing that better than anybody in the league, and that's part of who we are. We got our hands on some balls yesterday. So there's all the things from yesterday, Fred, are correctable. I do believe we have the right people to fix it. The coaches are attacking this and make sure that we're better moving forward. But our defense has kept us in other games before and really been the one that's led the team to victory when the offense is struggling a little bit. So it's sometimes the offense is down, defense picks them up, and sometimes it's vice versa. But I trust that we'll get some of those issues correct.
Hey, Kevin, I had a question about the defense, too. What can be done to get pressure on the quarterback from other than Myles Garrett?
Yeah, that's something that we're talking about, Jeff. You mentioned Myles. He continues to make big plays, and we're counting on him. And then we just need to have a rush plan. We have to, whether we're rushing 4 or more, we got to be able to apply, and affect the QB. And a couple times we did that, and a couple times give them credit. They blocked it up. So we'll look at it and come up with a plan that makes sense. And just, again, putting guys in position to go play and win a one-on-one ultimately is what we're looking to do.
The trade deadline's a week from tomorrow. And obviously this year it's a unique situation with protocols and bringing new players into your building. There's some buzz around the league that maybe teams will have a sense of urgency this year instead of waiting until that 4 p.m. deadline to do something. I know you're not the GM, but we talk to you every day. So just from your perspective, what's your take on the approach to the trade deadline this year with this unique situation?
Yeah.
1 minute.
Curious about that as well. See if that makes sense to teams to move the deadline up, so to speak, for those reasons. But I think we shall see. Again, I think Andrew and his staff do an outstanding job. Those conversations are ongoing. They happen every Monday. They happen the week.
Do you think defenses will approach you drastically differently without Odell on the field?
Good question. I don't know. That's, again, kind of our job to huddle up as an offensive staff and talk about
30.
how do we find ways to be explosive in the run and the pass. And again, we would rather do it with Odell, but the injury occurred and feel sick for him, but we'll have to find a way. That's what part of this business is, just finding a way.
And you mentioned Teller. Do you think
Stand by.
you can get him back?
I think it's hard to say today, Nate, but I think throughout Wednesday to Thursday, we'll have a better feel for where he is. But I'm not ruling him out.
You're up.
Just think about the job that man has done. No Chubb, now no Odell, no Hooper in the game, no Wyatt Teller in the game, no Grant Delpit all year. Well, we're 5-2.
5-2.
You're 5-2.
That's right. 5-2.
I mean,
first time since 1994, and just I'm pumped that the Hops coming on because when you get into the tape, just the intricacies, the variations off of things that he's shown through the first 6 games that percolated into this game in terms of, it's one thing to be a great play caller, which is to me to have a great feel for what's going on. It is another thing to be a great play designer and schemer and continue to have an answer for a question that has not yet been asked by the defense because they didn't know they needed to ask it is incredible. And there were numerous plays in this game like that he designed. He is a smooth operator. We said it from the beginning, the 3 Ps: prepared, has a plan, a process to implement that plan. You see it every single week, and the more you watch the tape, the more apparent it is. I had multiple people who are great players in their own right who have gone on to become analysts in and around the NFL text me that Stefanski is the real deal. Guys who played in high-level offenses, that he is the real deal, and this is awesome to watch.
Yes, it is. Are you a sports fan looking for a part-time weekend job? Get into the action at First Energy Stadium, home of your Cleveland Browns. Wes is now hiring for part-time event staff and security. Apply online at weshiring.com. You ask, ye shall receive. The Hoff Hour coming up next, the Joe Thomas Hour, Cleveland Browns Daily. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
Play clock down to 1. He's back to pass. And Myles Garrett's going to get him, and he knocks the ball away. It's another strip sack. Olivier Vernon trying to pick it up. And the Browns scoop in, and it's Ronnie Harrison. He's got it. And the Browns come up with a big play. And it was initiated by Myles Garrett. How about that, Doug?
Yeah, not bad. Just if he had control before he went out of.
Ready?
Yeah.
You're up.
Incredible game again for Myles Garrett. Are you on the injured list? We can help you get back into the game. Call 1-800-ELK-OHIO for a free case review. Elk & Elk, a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. And it's time for the Joe Thomas Hour. We bring on the Hoff. Joe, this is, look, there's so much joy in 5-2, and we're going to have a lot of fun with Baker and the way that he played and what we saw from our offense. But there is, cloud over this because of the loss of Odell Beckham Jr. When you hear that news this morning, your initial thoughts of Odell gone for the year, and what does it do for this team? What's it do in the locker room? What are the effects of this?
Well, initial thoughts are they kind of confirmed what our worst suspicions were after the game yesterday. Obviously, when you blow your knee out like Odell did, a lot of times it happens in that sort of non-contact manner. And so watching him go down, I think everybody had that pit in their stomach that it might be a torn ACL. Obviously, the Browns were able to respond, and they had a great game coming down the stretch, and such a fascinating and back-and-forth victory for them. Made you feel really good, but there was that dark cloud still kind of hanging out over the game and the results, and then unfortunately finding out this morning. It does put a little bit of a damper on the victory Monday, where it would be just pure joy. Now I think it's probably just regular pure joy. And it's the game of football, right? We as Browns fans understand that, you're going to lose some of your best players from time to time during a season. It's just the nature of the game of football. And it's how you respond to those situations. How quickly can this team accept their reality and move forward in the best manner they can? And I think optimistically looking forward, they can build off of what they did at the end of the game last week without Odell and say, hey, guys, we lost a great player, no doubt about it. But we were able to rally the troops. We were able to play great football offensively down the stretch. And so while not having Odell sucks, it really does. There's no other way to say it. While we don't have him, we can look back to the performance that we had yesterday and how we finished to build off of something that can be still really special even without Odell this season.
And Joe, it comes from, that loss and then the performance in spite of that. No Odell. You didn't have Austin Hooper, had the emergency appendectomy, and yet it came down to a point where you score touchdowns on your final 5 possessions. All of them are 60-plus yard possessions. You move it down the field. You need to score with a minute left. The season, in some ways, not that it hung in the balance, but your path to the playoffs with success in that final minute is significantly easier than without it. And they came through, and we had talked about so many times wanting to see this team throw itself to a victory. Baker Mayfield to have that moment, and he did. How important is that for his confidence? And then and in the locker room to have that come through moment right then.
Well, you had to think that Baker's confidence was low coming into this game, and especially the way that things started. And you had to wonder also too, what was the teammates' confidence in Baker? And then to lose Odell, but then to be able to bounce back and play down the stretch the way Baker did, that's got to engender an incredible amount of confidence, not only in Baker in himself, but in his teammates, that this team still can be a championship team even after losing Odell because of what they saw from their quarterback down the stretch, doing exactly the things he hadn't been able to do in previous weeks. The biggest criticism from Baker was he can't throw from in the pocket, and when he doesn't have his running game going, he's not effective. Well, you know what? They didn't have a great running game on Sunday, and Baker came back and played fantastic throwing from in the pocket. He was hitting the guys he needed to hit. He was decisive in his decision-making, and all around he was completely opposite of the narrative for him coming into this game and really through the first 5 bad passes of the game. He was flawless after that, except for the spike. He didn't miss a pass after he started 0 for 5. So I think it really should engender a lot of confidence and be a rallying cry and a rallying moment for this team going down the stretch as they compete for a division crown and potentially a Super Bowl crown.
Joe, it was like 18. I mean, he's throwing in the seam. He's throwing back shoulder fades. he just was ripping it. And as Nathan talked about in that fourth quarter, I just wonder if it almost felt like college again from him from the standpoint of a shootout. Like it was like just as soon as he could get the ball back, he was ready to go and just seeing it and ripping it. I mean, it was something we talked about last week. We just wanted to see him see it and rip it. He was seeing it and ripping it. He was learning off of things that had happened previous in the game. What do you attribute this to? This was a really impressive performance.
Yeah, it was the Jekyll and Hyde Baker Mayfield from what we've seen the last few weeks. And one thing I can say is the pass protection was very good. He did not get sacked in the game. He barely got hit. I thought the play calling from Kevin Stefanski was outstanding. He mixed in a nice mix of runs and play action passes and gave Baker plenty of time in the pocket. And so I would say if there was one maybe theme is that, in weeks past when Baker does get pressured and he is getting hit, especially since he hurt those ribs, he's getting those happy feet and he's not decisive in the pocket. This week, no pressure. All of a sudden, very decisive, ripping it like you mentioned. And it seemed like his confidence was back at spades. I mean, he was impressive the way he would stand back there and hit his back foot and decisively throw the football. And when he's throwing the football in rhythm and he's decisive, he's throwing it very accurately. The times he hasn't been accurate, it's been he wasn't really sure of the coverage. He wasn't sure of where he should throw the football. He hangs on to it a little longer than he should. And then that inaccuracy shows up. And I think a lot of times it's because of the base, the footwork, right? You get your accuracy. A lot of times quarterbacks talk about consistency from their base. You're using proper footwork. Your base is underneath you. You're throwing on time and rhythm. All the mechanics are perfect and flawless. When you're out of rhythm and your footwork is screwed up, that's when a lot of times the mechanics go haywire and then the accuracy issues pile up. And so hopefully Baker can kind of transition from this fantastic performance down the stretch when he wasn't pressured, where he was decisively throwing the football where it needed to go and on the money. Hopefully he can do that now if he is getting a little bit of pressure maybe in his face. If he is starting to get hit a little bit, I want him to have that same confidence that he had down the stretch yesterday in those moments when maybe things aren't as clean as they could be possibly in the pocket.
Yeah, it really was just kind of it was stunning. And Joe, when we went into the film room this morning, it just struck me how he seemed to be very in tune, and he was just reading it and throwing it. And it was much more, it seemed, about the process in terms of they're going to dictate where the ball goes than me dictating to whom and where the ball goes. And all of a sudden it was just boom, 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 climbing the pocket, boom, boom, delivering the football. It was fun to watch. It was honestly, it was
pure joy.
Pure joy, exactly.
It was
so fun. What a fun game to watch. I think they said in the fourth quarter there was like 5 go-ahead touchdown passes.
Yep, most ever
thrown, which was most ever. I mean, we talk about a great division Ohio rivalry game going on between 2 young budding quarterbacks in the NFL, 2 number 1 overall Heisman picks. Like, the storyline was already there, and then for them to deliver down the stretch, and then the good guys winning in the end. I mean, it was just a Hollywood movie. It was so fun to watch. My daughter, Logan, my oldest, was just screaming at the top of her lungs every time Baker threw a touchdown pass, and she's still trying to figure out the game, and it's been so fun for me to have her sit next to me on the couch, and I'm sitting there like a color analyst, like explaining every little thing like it's my grandma, or like I used to do with my mom, because my mom knew nothing about football when I was growing up, and I had to describe, like, what is out of bounds? Like, what is a first down? Like, why did the ball go to the other team there? And it was just so fun. It was glorious. It was pure joy to be able to explain the game to my little daughter and watch the Browns win at the same time. That's how you build lifelong Browns fans, and I loved it.
Yeah, I had a similar experience with my boys. Like, it was incredible being able to celebrate that one, and it was such a fun fourth quarter. Joe, I said earlier, it's probably wrong to expect Myles Garrett to wreck a game every single game out, but he does. So I guess, are we entitled that he's going to get a strip sack every game? Is that where we're at?
It's just amazing. And I think, some of it is luck, obviously. Whenever you're talking about fumbles and turnovers, there's a healthy dose of luck that goes into it, but you have to put yourself into those situations to be fortunate. And I think part of the reason Myles gets so many strip sacks is he beats guys so cleanly. Like, a lot of times with sacks, what happens is you're up in the game, and then you get on the edge of the offensive lineman, and the quarterback hangs onto the ball, tries to run around a little bit, and then you get sort of a half tackle sack. But like Miles is just beating dudes Scott ass free, and he's getting to the quarterback, and the quarterback doesn't even realize it because it's happening so quickly within the rhythm of the offense. Like quarterback's hitting their back foot, taking one step up in the pocket, and all of a sudden Miles is blasting him from behind. And also you got to give Miles credit for being a smart football player and going for the football at all times. Like he's not just trying to inflict pain on the quarterback. He's also trying to get the ball out. He's so strong. He's so effective at it. Like, I think he realizes too, honestly, that this defense relies on turnovers. Like we're not a top 10 defense where we can just sit back and play tough, sound football and let a team go down the field and we know we're going to stop them in the red zone or we're going to make a stop, because we just have had too many injuries across the board. And so for Miles to understand, like, look, we have to be a defense that thrives on turnovers and then go out and do it. Like that's superstar hero status. It's just pretty amazing watching the guy work.
You think about last year, the leading pass rushers who had turnovers generated by their pressure, Shaq Barrett, and there was one other. They produced 6 for the season. Myles Garrett is now at 7 in 7 games.
That's right.
Turnovers is a direct result of his pressure.
It looks like a high school game. Like I remember when I played defensive end in high school, this is a little humble brag here, but I was the defensive player of the year in Wisconsin in high school my senior year. I mean, that's probably the highlight on my Hall of Fame bust in college. But anyways, I remember when I would get to the quarterback, I would try to hurt them. But at the same time, I was always thinking like every time I got there, I was going to get the ball out because I was just so much bigger than everybody else that I was playing against in high school that they really couldn't stop me from ripping the ball out or hitting him hard enough where he fumbled. And that's what it looks like Miles is doing when he's out there. He just has that mentality like, if I get to the quarterback, the ball is coming out. Like he has no chance to hold on to it. I'm just so much bigger and stronger than you that you have no chance. I'm going to get the football out. And he just keeps doing it. And God, I'm glad he's on my team.
Yeah, it's unbelievable the pace that he's on, and it's hard to imagine. You say, well, you can't expect it, but every week he does. So you do start to expect it. A little bit later on with the Hoff, we'll do a little word association coming up next. We'll hand out some game balls, 2 game balls apiece. We will do that coming up next. You're listening to the Joe Thomas Hour of Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
The 6 and 7 of the Bengals. Browns down a touchdown. 3rd down and 3. Hunt on the right hip of Mayfield in the shotgun. Bryant motions off the wide right. Mayfield looks, fires, end zone, caught, touchdown! It's his 2nd of the game. It's Harrison Bryant.
Ready?
Yep.
You're up.
Looking to refinance or purchase a home at Union Home Mortgage? The process is simple and straightforward. Your loan officer keeps you in the loop all the way to the end zone. Visit UnionHomeMortgage.com to get a mortgage you'll rave about. Union Home Mortgage, promises kept. Union Home Mortgage Corp. NMLS 2229 is an equal housing lender. We continue with the Joe Thomas Hour of Cleveland Browns Daily. And Victory Monday means we hand out game balls. We each have two to hand out. The great Z. And we'll start with the Hoff with his first game ball.
Well, I don't want to go with the obvious one, but I'm going to go ahead and go with the obvious one. Baker Mayfield's got to have the game ball after starting 0 for 5, throwing a pick right off the bat. He finished 22 out of 23. The only incompletion was the spike, which doesn't even really count, with a perfect passer rating down the stretch, 5 touchdowns, winning the Battle of Ohio, beating Joe Burrow again for the second time, keeping the mentality of we will always beat the Bengals in Joe Burrow's mind. I think that was beautiful. The performance done all without OBJ, and I think what he did there down the stretch can engender confidence in himself and his teammates' confidence in him to a great stretch run for the Cleveland Browns for an opportunity to compete for the division title. So you got to talk about bouncing back. Nobody bounced back bigger than Baker Mayfield this weekend in the entire NFL. Congrats to him. He gets my first game ball.
See.
All right, I'll go with another obvious one. Myles Garrett. Again, that was a huge moment, getting that fumble. What a play by Ronnie Harrison, by the way, to come and get it and stay in bounds while getting possession of the football. But Myles Garrett continues week in and week out, and you get a little nervous. What happens if Myles Garrett doesn't do that? Because we need somebody else to start getting home, because we're getting the only pressure we get other than Myles right now, it seems like, comes our manufactured, our blitzes. Somebody on that front four has got to get there, but definitely a game ball for Myles Garrett.
My game ball is I think there's several. There's a lot. We could honestly hand out a lot of game balls. I'm giving it to Jarvis Landry. 1 of 1, 19 yards. Oh, that's not much to that. 2 carries, 4 yards. Not much to that. What do you have? Less than 50 yards receiving for Jarvis Landry on 5 catches, just 48 yards. Why? It's all the little things, man. He does all the little things. Yep. He's as smart as any football player I've seen. We talked about it off the top. We texted about it yesterday. Hoff, I saw you tweeting it as well. Him getting Harrison Bryant to line up on the line of scrimmage saves the game. It allows you to win the game. Like, it's a play, and we saw Larry Fitzgerald doing it last night for Arizona when they were trying to get down, where he's sprinting the ball in and placing it. That's the type of stuff that Jarvis does. He holds people accountable. And if you go back to Hard Knocks and you hear that contagious speech that he gave to the receivers room that year, it's contagious. Well, he is contagious. He is the leader of this football team. The level that he sees the game at is incredibly high, and I'm just so thankful that he's a Cleveland Brown. I hope he's a Brown for life. Number 2 for you, Hoff.
Yeah, this is where things get a little bit challenging, because I think there was the clear ones that you guys mentioned, and actually I was going to say something about Jarvis, and I thought your speech there about the little things he does, like that's everything, right? He is doing all the little things on and off the field that all these young players can look up to and say, that's who I want to be like, because he does everything right and then shows up on Sundays. But right now, the next game ball, I'm going to have to go with Hollywood Higgins. 110 yards on 6 catches, 30 as a long, and he was the first Browns receiver. This was kind of surprising when I saw this, to go over 100 yards on the season. He is playing big when Odell has gone down, and he's going to be big down the stretch with Odell gone for the rest of the season. So happy for Hollywood. We talked on Browns Live last week, Z, about the hard work that Hollywood puts in every single week, the fact that he really had to fight and scratch and claw to get back on this team and back in the rotation. And now that he's gotten his opportunity, he's made the most of it with a huge game on Sunday, and he's going to be huge going forward. And the connection that him and Baker have, I think, has a chance to continue to evolve from something that's already special into something that's magical down the stretch.
Indeed, 6 targets, 6 catches, 110 yards for Hollywood, including the 2 big ones on that final drive. Because they're rookies, I'm going to split my game ball in half for them, and that's just part of the rookie. They only can get half of a game ball each, and that's going to go
Of course he's going to give more game balls than he's allowed. I love it.
It's only one ball. It's just split into 2 pieces. For Donovan Peoples-Jones and Harrison Bryant, the rookies each had 56 yards receiving, 3 total touchdowns. We know DPJ had the game winner, but these are guys that probably you weren't expecting to have to contribute, certainly not to this degree. Hooper out, OBJ out. Tremendous, clutch, contested catches in the end zone, money plays, both of them awesome.
My final game ball goes to Denzel Ward. I can't remember if it was on the coach's show or on last Friday's show, Z, where I wanted to see some game-wrecking plays. He's defended the receivers as good as anybody. Well, we got him. I mean, slipping up and blowing up a screen. You got him not batting the ball down from Joe Burrow where he read it perfectly. There was the one drive where we held him to a field goal that was a big point in the game where he made 3 plays on the drive.
Yeah.
That were huge, game-changing plays for Denzel Ward. He was drafted 4th overall for a reason, the idea being a game-changing corner, and he played to that level on Sunday. You had to have all of it. You need Denzel and Miles, elite. The rest of that defense, there's some stuff that's got to get sorted out. Ronnie Harrison looks great, by the way, too. But I thought that Denzel was absolutely spectacular in the game on Sunday. And there's a lot of fun game balls here, man. I mean, this was a fun game.
We could have gone on and on.
We'll do some. Yeah, I know it. We'll do a little word association coming up next. You're listening to the Joe Thomas Hour, Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
With Higgins to the right. Mayfield back to pass. Throwing down the seam. It is caught in the end zone. David Njoku. And the Browns, for the first time today, they lead.
Ready?
Yep.
You're up.
Knowing one's limit is important, whether it's a snap count for a football player or a spending limit when you're playing the lottery. So if you like to gamble, set a limit beforehand and stick to it. If you want to learn more, go to keepitfunohio.com for helpful tips on how to keep gambling fun. Before we get into word association, guys, we've listened to, it's so great to hear Jim, and this is the Joe Thomas Hour, Cleveland Browns Daily. So we've had a Hollywood Higgins play. We talked about him. Donovan Peoples-Jones. David Njoku. These are human beings who weren't even active 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. Healthy and active.
I mean, yeah. It's incredible. It's incredible how everyone's ready. And this has been a theme. And I think this gets into word association correctly. Let's go right to it right now with Kevin Stefanski. Because, Joe, when you think about coach, and there's the play calling aspect of it, and there's a lot where you could go here with word association. But I think also the fact that guys who you were not previously counting on thrust into play and thrive. We've seen it with Dearness. We've seen it with Donovan Peoples-Jones, Higg, Njoku. These are guys who Fridays of game weeks aren't expected to make big plays, making huge plays, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, that goes into the culture, right? As a head coach, what's the most important thing that you want to build? You want to build a culture. And that's something that you heard Jimmy Haslam talk about a number of different times when they've hired a new coach. It's all about building a culture. And when you build a good football culture, what that means is there's guys that are ready when their number is called. And you can see clearly that even though Kevin Stefanski's only been here for a few short months, he is developing a roster. He's developing a depth chart of not just the starters, not just your stars, because anybody can come in here and call plays for the stars. But what he's doing, he's developing those guys around those players that are ready to step in when injuries happen or when things happen, which always do in the NFL, that typically derail other teams. That's a lot of the magic that the Patriots have had forever. Was they've had the same offense and defensive scheme forever, and Belichick's been coaching the same things the same ways, and his coaches know exactly what he wants, and so they're able to develop the backup players, the guys that are lower draft picks, to be able to step in and fill the role that they need. Like a role players on a football team are almost as important as the stars, because those are the guys doing the little things on a play-to-play basis that gives the stars the opportunities to make the big plays. And so for guys like Donovan Peoples-Jones and Rashard Higgins to be able to step in and make those plays, and you don't even realize that maybe the starter or the guy you're used to seeing is not in there, like that speaks directly to the culture the Browns are building and should make all fans feel really good about the long-term future of this franchise.
Well, and you mentioned the New England Patriots, and I think you think about a guy in Chad O'Shea who was there for a decade as the wide receivers coach and a variety of jobs, but was a wide receiver coach for a decade with the Patriots. And you think about all the guys that have stepped up at various times for that Patriots organization, and all of a sudden he's now our wide receivers coach, and you see guys stepping up. I mean, don't forget, it's not just Odell was out. Kadarius Hodge was your season-opening number 3 receiver.
That's right.
So 2 of your top 3 receivers that you went into the season with were not available to you in this particular game. And you had Donovan Peoples-Jones and Higgins, who you mentioned, who were inactives. And, you know, I got a chance to talk with Chad O'Shea a little bit before the Steelers game, and he said that Donovan Peoples-Jones knew the responsibilities of every receiving position, and that they were stunned with just his mental aptitude, and that he knew in a pinch he could put him in at any spot. Let's not forget his debut came against Dallas, because when he wasn't supposed to play that game either, because Hodge got hurt in pregame warmups, and Higgins was already inactive. Higgins was inactive the Dallas game, and look at what he's done the last few weeks. Donovan Peoples-Jones was not supposed to do anything other than return kicks that game. And in this one, he was the 4th receiver they had active, was probably not going to play a ton, and ends up playing a ton, making 2 catches on, at this point, the most important drive of the season. These guys get a lot of credit. The coaches get a lot of credit. As Joe knows, the position coaches often, a lot of players will tell you, that is really critical to their development. The overall culture set from the top, but the quality of the position coach they get. And the Browns, where they've needed it the most, offensive line and wide receiver, clearly have great ones. And you'd have to say Drew Petzing might be a budding star as well, what he's doing in that tight end room.
Yeah, Yeah, and let's go right there now, Joe, to that tight end room. Hoop, we find like how many things can be thrown on us? All of a sudden, Hoop's out with an appendicitis. Harrison Bryant, who has been there since camp, honestly, and then the Chief with big plays as well.
Yeah, the Chief, another one of those guys you can throw in there and say, he's had a little bit of an up and down, a lot of drama around his name this season and this week in particular, and comes out, a couple big catches and a touchdown. Like, that tight end room is so dangerous. And we knew it coming in. Kevin Stefanski was a guy, he loved putting 2 or 3 tight ends in the game. He loved throwing to the tight end. Like, this offense, it just fits a lot with throwing to the tight end out of play action, because those tight ends get lost a lot of times because they're typically being covered by safeties and linebackers. And when you're running wide zones, a lot of times the ball's being run at those tight ends, so those guys become good blockers. And a lot of times safeties and linebackers, they see those tight ends blocking play in and play out and play after play, and all of a sudden they lose track of them, and there's a lot of opportunities to leak those guys out for routes. And then you talk about the 3 guys we got right now that are all extremely talented tight ends. It's just a matchup nightmare for any defense. And one of my best friends, a guy named Ben Strickland, coached at FAU when Harrison Bryant was there. And when the Browns picked him, he goes, "You guys got a good one." And I'm like, "Okay, bro, you coached at FAU. Like, I get it. He was really good for FAU, but like, this is the NFL now. I'm not sure if you've heard of the AFC North, but this is the best division in football. Like, he probably was great in college, but all of a sudden, my buddy was right. He is a stud. Like, Andrew Berry talked about him being such a steal, and he was right. Like, this guy is fantastic. He needs some work on his blocking, which you'd expect from being a smaller tight end playing at a smaller college. But as far as his playmaking ability and his ability to step in for your stud when all of a sudden he gets the Alex Mack appendectomy mid-season, like, this is incredible. This is glorious stuff. This is the things that nerdy fans like us just get so tickled pink about.
What I'm amazed by with Bryant is just the feel he has as a route runner. So natural, but even you go down the red zone, those are going to be contested catches. He understood on the first touchdown. He took advantage of Von Bell, who had the outside leverage pre-snap, hopping back to the inside. Maybe that was a tendency breaker from Stefanski, but it certainly seemed like Von Bell expected Harrison Bryant to run some type of an in-breaking route, and Bryant used that against him to get into him and create the separation on the first touchdown, which is, to me, seemed pretty nuanced and a very veteran move. And on the second touchdown, just his ability to know when he turns, he's got to get the ball's got to come in that window, and it came in low where only he could catch it, and he just catches everything. And he's tough. You can see his physicality when he had the one where he caught it and run, and he loves it. He has a zest for the game.
Yeah, he does. It's fun to watch. Let's go to the Browns defense. Hoff, what did you see? What do you like? What comes to mind?
Well, I think we talked about it a little bit already. Like, Myles Garrett continues his steamroll towards Defensive Player of the Year, getting sacks and fumbles, turnovers at an unbelievable rate. And then Denzel Ward playing his best football of the year right now, which is really exciting because, he's been a Pro Bowl corner in the past, had to deal with some injuries, but for him to be able to come on is so important for this defense because now you can kind of lock him up with the opposing team's best receiver and you can kind of X that guy out. And so now you got Myles, who's taking a double team almost every time. So now you're a 1-man up advantage. And then if you've got a lockdown corner, you're kind of another half man or even a full man advantaged against the defense because you don't have to go with a double cover on the opposing team's best receiver, which a lot of times you have to. So that enables you to kind of spread out the rest of your resources on defense a little bit, which is going to be so important, especially dealing with the number of injuries and some ineffective play at different positions. But I think it's been a little bit of the same from this defense, right? Pretty good at stopping the run. We can pressure the quarterback. We can get turnovers. Like, that should be our formula moving down the stretch. I'd like to see him do a little bit better job on third down. Bengals were 6 out of 9. Joe Burrow moved the ball, and he is playing well, but fairly at will throwing the football. They didn't punt at all. So there's plenty of things to work on from a defensive standpoint, but I think sometimes when you're a defense that's maybe not a top 10 defense, what you say is instead of trying to get better at our weaknesses because maybe there aren't a lot of answers right now in the middle point of the season, especially with the trade deadline coming up, there's just not a whole lot you can do. Maybe there's a few sellers for teams that thought they were going to be good that aren't going to be good, that are going to be going into the rebuilding phase, and maybe there's somebody out there the Browns can pick up, but let's just assume there's nobody else. sometimes the best strategy is like, let's just focus on continuing or even getting a little bit better at the things we're already doing a good job of. So like turnovers. Okay, let's focus on getting those turnovers because that's kind of how our defense is surviving on. So let's emphasize the things we do well and then not dwell as much on stuff that we're not as good at because we just can't get any better. We just don't have any other answers at those other positions.
Do you get concerned at all that, I know Joe Woods, when he came, his stated preference is to get pressure with his front four. And it seems that outside of Miles, pressure is coming from manufactured blitzes. And he's designed a bunch of great blitzes because we've had safeties, slot corners, get home repeatedly. And I do think Ronnie Harrison looks like somebody who shouldn't be coming off the field anymore. He just seems to be probably one of the best natural playmakers on our team. And I am stunned that the Jags let a guy that young on a rookie contract go for no reason, but I'm glad that they did. But are you, if you were to be looking at the trade, are you looking for front four pass rush help? Because it just seems outside of Miles, it really hasn't been there. And that's not a knock on. I think Sheldon's done well. Larry's been a beast against the run. OV's been great against the run. Claiborne as well. But it just doesn't seem like we're able to get that consistent front four pressure that lets kind of help mask some things that could be popping up on the back end, safeties, linebackers, et cetera, in coverage.
Yeah, you saw Joe Woods pressure a lot in this game because he's trying to keep that pressure on Joe Burrow. He's trying to hit him. That was a big key the first time the Browns played him. So clearly Joe Woods was thinking, all right, we need to keep the pressure on Joe Burrow because if we sit back in coverage, this guy, even though he's only a rookie, is so good at dinking and dunking and picking his way down the field that this would not be good for our defense. So he was sending the pressure pretty much the entire day. And that's something that worked a little bit because he forced a few turnovers, but at the same time, it's not something that you can have a steady diet of all the time because you're going to run into some really good quarterbacks and great offensive minds that are going to beat you if you're just steady dose blitzing the other team's offense. Offensive coordinators are going to go, okay, this is what you do. You block it up. So you add a max protection, you bring a tight end in, maybe two tight ends in, and you run a one or two receiver route into those pressures, run a double move into a defensive back who's in one-on-one man coverage thinking the ball's going to come out. And so he might be jumping that short, maybe out and up. And all of a sudden the ball's going over his head. And it's hard when you do get a lot of deep passes on your defense if teams start to pick you apart like that, to continue to blitz just to try to make pressure and make things happen. So you are going to have to sit back. But it's one of those things. I don't know. There aren't a lot of answers, right? The Ravens were able to get Yannick Ngakoue, which would have been a great answer for the Browns. But I don't know. The Browns have pretty good defensive line pressure already. And so adding another guy, you kind of wonder, like, all right, even if it is possible, where do you put him? Who do you get? How do you get him into the rotation? I will say defensive line is the easiest plug-and-play position on defense because it doesn't take as much communication. It's much more difficult from a secondary, and we saw that with Ronnie Harrison. It took him a while to kind of get up to speed before they trusted him to go out there, and now he's playing lights out. But a defensive lineman, you just, line him up over the tackle. Hey, go get the guy with the ball. Like, that's a lot easier. So I would say from, like, an ease of transition into this defensive line would be great, but other than that, I don't know how realistic it would be to actually pick somebody up at this point in the season.
It's hard to know who's going to be out there.
Sure.
And I think this could be a trade deadline unlike any other. I think a lot of people are going to lean into the tank over the course of the next week or so because there's a lot of really bad teams in the National Football League. Coming up next, we do a little preview of the Raiders coming to town as we look to close the first half out in style. We will do so with the Hoff because it is, after all, the Joe Thomas Hour in Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Be part of one of the most passionate fan bases in the NFL. Join the Browns season ticket member waitlist today for the best chance at securing tickets for all home games in future seasons. Deposits start at just $100 a seat. Reserve your spot today by visiting clevelandbrowns.com. Coming in this week, the Vegas Raiders. And this is, guys, it's interesting as you look at this Raiders team. There are two teams in the National Football League who have given up 30 points every week. This is one of them. It's them and the Cowboys. Book it, 30 on the board every single week. They gave up a ton to Tom Brady yesterday as he just sliced them and diced them. They can score, though. They beat Kansas City a couple of weeks ago. Carr got really smoked in this game, but he's been putting up some numbers. They have Josh Jacobs. Hoff from a week out. What do you make of this Raiders team that's coming in here on Sunday?
I think you did a good job recapping it. They've defensively, a little up and down for them. They're not great, but offensively, they're going to score some points, just as you'd expect from a John Gruden coach team. Derek Carr's playing great football. John Gruden's got him back to kind of that MVP type form he had a few years ago when people were so in love with this young player. And I tell you what, the biggest concern for me in this game is going to be Darren Waller. And if you don't know anything about this guy, he is going to be a nightmare for the Browns defense to be able to come up with some type of game plan. He is their unbelievably athletic tight end. He's got an incredible story where he was in Baltimore and he went through some tough things in life and kind of bounced around, was able to get another second chance in Oakland and has made the most of it. He is a freak athletically, and he's really kind of what you would consider their go-to guy in that offense from the tight end position.
Yeah, he's a stud, and this is week's matchup to watch. It's going to be all about trying to stop Darren Waller and kind of more hoping that it works like with Joe Mixon, where I made it the matchup to watch, and then for some reason he wasn't able to perform on Sunday, which that would be Yeah, that would be probably the best way to handle Waller. But yeah, that's going to be a handful. They're a great offense, but they are not a great defense. And so if you liked what you saw on Sunday, there's a pretty good chance it might be a similar type of a game flow to what you saw on Sunday this week, except they will have their running back, Josh Jacobs, who is also a very good player. Aguilar's playing great for them. Ruggs has speed that can take the top off of the defense. It's a good offense with a great offensive mind in Gruden, but as you pointed out, it's just their defense can't stop anybody. And so this should be we've scored 30 or more 5 of the last 6. I know the one that was the 2 times we haven't scored 30, we haven't even gotten to 10. But if we get to 10, look out. We're going straight to 30.
You'll get 30 this week. I mean, that's just what they do. That's what their defense does. Guys, let's go around the league in a wild week 7, and let's kind of start in our division. Pittsburgh going to Tennessee, building a big lead, almost giving it all back, but getting a win. And Gibby wants to know who's the best team in the AFC right now: Kansas City, who was really impressive in Denver without Mahomes having to do everything, or Pittsburgh.
Well, if you're asking me, unfortunately for Browns fans, it's Pittsburgh. They are the most well-rounded team, in my opinion, in the NFL. And it's not a big surprise that they're undefeated right now. They play great defense, as we saw a couple weeks ago. They can stop the run. Ben Roethlisberger's playing at MVP form. He was able to come back after that elbow surgery, and he's playing lights out even at his advanced age for a quarterback. But what is so dangerous about the Pittsburgh team is their ability to close people out, because they have a physical running attack and they can rush the passer with their outside linebackers, Bud Dupree and TJ Watt. And so when you put all those things together, they're a team that's just built to win any game against any team in cold weather, in warm weather. It doesn't matter if it's home or away. They are built, and unfortunately for the Browns, they're in our division and they're our biggest rival.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm pretty sure I'll be sure to remind Gibbs and the Ibs boys on Better or Worse that I said they were the best team in the they and the Chiefs were the cream of the crop, and they're good. You still have to be the man, you got to beat the man. I do believe that philosophy, but right now I would not be going against the Steelers on a neutral field against anybody because they can do it all. You want to play a shootout? Fine. Remember, they were doing all this stuff without Deontay Johnson. Claypool steps up. Now Deontay Johnson's back. He comes in with 2 touchdowns. Juju, Thompson, Claypool, Ebron. They can throw it to their backs. Their line is excellent. Then defensively, they're just dominant. Obviously, Devin Bush is a big loss for them. or whatever the analyst of the day would like to refer to him as. He's still a big loss for the Steelers, and he's somebody that's going to be tough to replace, but they're still so good defensively, and it starts up front for them.
All right, guys, Arizona with an incredible come-from-behind win in which, frankly, Seattle really blew it down the stretch in this game. Arizona for real, Hoff? And then additionally, if you could just speak to, as someone who is an elite athlete, what you saw from DK Metcalf, who honestly looked superhuman in the chase down.
I like Arizona, but I think they're just by kind of their youth they have at quarterback and by the style of play, the way they throw the football kind of all over the place. They're going to be up and down, but they're definitely that team that can beat anybody on any given Sunday because when they're at their best, they're tough to beat because they got a good enough defense. They got an offense that can score. Kyler Murray is that wild card where even if you have a great game plan against him, he does enough off-schedule plays that aren't part of the playbook where he just goes and is a human joystick that he can beat anybody himself. And so they're a tough battle no matter who they're playing against. I think they are for real. They're 5-2, and they just beat the Seahawks, who up until this point may have been the cream of the crop in the NFC. So that's a team that I'm going to keep my eyes on when the Brownies are in the Super Bowl. It might be a potential Super Bowl matchup.
Did you guys see the Metcalf thing?
I saw the highlight.
Oh, yeah, that was the second part of your question. Good God. For a man that's that athletic, to see that type of hustle makes me happy, right? Because usually the greatest athletes are the guys that don't give the best effort. But for him to be that big and strong and fast and still give great effort like that, like that's the type of film that you're going to be showing high school kids in like 2 decades about how to play the game and why.
And Z, he did it in a game where he's not featured. This was a Lockett game.
15 for 203 scores for Lockett, which just an incredible performance. No, but the closest thing I've ever seen to it reminded me of Larry Fitzgerald chasing down or attempting to chase down James Harrison at the end of the first half of the Super Bowl.
That's right.
But that's chasing James Harrison. Now he had to negotiate sidelines and all of those things, but this was running down Buda Baker. It was incredible. And you could see him just eating the ground and the space closing, and you knew it was inevitable, but incredible. Kingsbury said exactly what you said, Joe, that they will be showing this to high school kids for generations.
You got to admit, too, though, there is a little part of DK Metcalf that goes, if I chase this dude down, everybody's going to be talking about how fast I am. And so I better give my best effort because it's worth it if I am able to catch him. And he was. He was right. He bet on himself and he won.
Was he like 22.6? Is that what they said he hit on the next gen? Jeez.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I don't know if I've ever gotten out of single digits.
Yeah, I only run that fast when I'm going to my smoker. If my meat's been on too long.
Last one I have for you guys around the league, and that is the Patriots. This was a absolute slumping at the hands of the 49ers. Cam doesn't look right. I mean, he just looks I don't know if he's injured. He looks injured to me, Joe, but I mean, he's one hop and throws, 3 picks. They have big problems in New England, and no one's going to feel sorry for him, but it's just strange to see Belichick housed like that at his own place.
I think what the highlight here for me is that Belichick, in my opinion, and probably most people's opinion, is the greatest coach of all time. But I think everybody kind of assumed the difference was like a chasm when really it was a small gap. And this just highlights how important having Tom Brady all those years was for them. And the fact that without Tom, I don't think we would have been able to realize Belichick's coaching genius. But to go to your point about Cam Newton, just watching him over the last few years, I don't know if you guys remember, but they came up to Cleveland, like, what was it, 2018, Z? I can't remember what it was, but Cam Newton was there, and he was having shoulder problems,
yes,
right?
Yes, it was 18. He threw
ever since then,
the pick at the end of the game to Randall.
He struggled to throw the football down the field, and he was always a guy that was a big shoulder thrower. He was never one of these Drew Brees, Tom Brady, where he's producing force from the ground like the Tom House baseball guys, you know. He was always like kind of how I am, right? Shoulder thrower, just muscle it out there. And he had a huge cannon, and it worked fine for a long time. But after that shoulder surgery, he hasn't been able to consistently go down the field because he just keeps trying to muscle it harder and harder. And there's a point of diminishing returns when you're trying to muscle throws. And so, yeah, he had the foot, and that's kind of what, made his exodus from Carolina possible. And now the foot's healthy and he's able to run, but the shoulder just isn't healthy, I don't think. And I don't know if it's ever going to be back to the cannon that it used to be unless he learns how to throw from the ground up, because I think going into this game, he only had like 7 deep passing attempts on the season. Even when he does try to throw the football down the field, it's inaccurate. It's short. He's one-hopping it. He's missing guys all over the place. And so teams really quickly see that stuff on film. I mean, when Brady Quinn was the quarterback in Cleveland, for me, the scouting report on him was he inaccurate down the field. And teams realized that. And so all of a sudden the coverage, it's sucked up onto the line of scrimmage, and teams are going to dare you to throw it down the field because, especially running the football the way the Patriots have with Cam Newton, they're not going to sit back and let him run the ball. So they're going to just climb up on the line of scrimmage. They're going to blitz. They're going to crowd the line, and they're going to make him throw it deep. And thus far, he hasn't been able to do that. And so until they find an answer for that, which, who knows? They took Cam Newton out towards the end of that game, and they went with Stidham. Maybe this is something that's going to be longer term. It's not like they're married to Cam Newton. He's on a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
My dad, not Pedro, wants you to know, Nate, they did that without 7 starters on defense, Nate.
I have a feeling Pedro's not going to be happy with you when we do the scores this week after, again, blowing it on the child.
Well, the problem is when I try to
Just
back them,
he's not going to be pleased.
When I back them, they get blown, the doors blown off by the Dolphins. And then I go, all right, let's reverse jinx it. I'm going to take my dad's tack. But that was my dad growing up. Joe, the Niners, I grew up in the 80s, 4 Super Bowls in the decade. All they did was win. Every week they're going to get blown out. That's on my dad. Because that way if they lost, he'd be like, I told you so. And then if they won, he was happy anyway because they won. Classic. Can't lose.
I love that.
Can't lose.
Hoff, you got a fun one Thursday seeing this Panthers team. By the way, if you're not watching your guys' pregame show on Thursday night,
it's
folks,
the best.
you're missing the most fun you can have watching NFL pregame shows. The show you guys have. You and Irv last week were unbelievable. This is an interesting game from the Panthers' perspective because they are in every game they play.
Yeah, the Panthers, they're a fun team to watch, and I think you got to talk about Z's guy, Theodore there. Theodore Bridgewater, like that guy is one of the smartest quarterbacks in the NFL. He throws accurate passes on time. He is fun to watch as a quarterback, and he's kind of the throwback, old school, sit in the pocket, deliver the football. It's going to be a fun one on Thursday because you got the Falcons all of a sudden playing good football. And, I can't possibly wrap my mind around the fact that it seems like teams, after they fire their coach, always go on these little runs.
Yep.
And I don't know what it is other than it's got to be the team was just kind of sleepwalking and tired of hearing the same voice. And you get a different voice in front of the team, and it just creates a little bit of a spark. So it'll be interesting to see how long this lasts for the Falcons because we thought they had talent and they just never played well. They weren't winning, and all of a sudden on a little bit of a roll here. So we'll see who can come out victorious. It'll be a good one to start the NFL week.
You could have a situation where Joe Brady goes from like an offensive assistant with the Saints to not even the offensive coordinator, but play caller at LSU, play caller, offensive coordinator with Carolina, head coach Houston Texans. That might happen in 3 years. It's an incredible rise. Hoff, always a pleasure, my friend. Look forward to seeing you on the TV on Thursday night. The great Hoff. Thank you, sir.
Pleasure is mine. Thanks, guys. Have a great week.
We will. Certainly, winning feels better. That was, of course, the Joe Thomas Hour of Cleveland Browns Daily. Much more to come from the Z and I on Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. boy, what an incredible drive. Beau Bishop here for my friends at Raising Cane's on game day. Go for the win with Raising Cane's chicken fingers. Stack your roster with delicious hand-battered cooked-to-order chicken fingers and cane sauce, and huddle up with crispy crinkle-cut fries, coleslaw, buttery Texas toast, and top it all off with freshly made tea and lemonade. Raising Cane's chicken fingers, proud sponsor of the Ohio High School Association and also Ohio State Athletics. Raising Cane's chicken fingers, one love. The man who caught that pass was Donovan Peoples-Jones. He spoke with the media earlier today. Let's have a listen.
I'm sure you're sorry about
what
happened to Odell. I was just curious, what has he meant to you so far earlier in your career, just in terms of, inspiring you, teaching you, all those things?
I mean, him and Jarvis are just growing up, they were big inspirations to me. Not even being here with them on the team, now, they continue to inspire me and continue to motivate me all the time.
Donovan, does anything in your career at any level compare to making that winning catch?
I don't think so. I had a winning catch in high school to go to the state championship, but nothing as big as this one. On the end of a 2-minute drive, perfectly thrown ball, perfectly timed moment. It's all God.
So I think those were the first catches you've had, before that touchdown. Was it just like getting on a bike for you and just letting natural ability take over to get into the flow of the offense in crunch time?
Yeah, just doing what I've always practiced, just being there in game time whenever I'm ready.
I think it was Baker yesterday said when he got in the huddle after that timeout before the touchdown to you, he said, "Let's take one shot." Did you know the ball was going to come to you on that play?
I didn't. I had a feeling that it could. So, I wanted to be there in case it did, and it did. So.
And like Tony mentioned, you hadn't had a catch at all until the fourth quarter, and then you get to 3. And Coach Stefanski, I think he called you Mr. Reliable. So how do you stay ready and then be in that moment to go make those plays when you get the chance?
Just continue to be detailed and focused on everything I'm given, whether that's in practice, whether that's in game. Whether that's watching film, whether that's, on my assignment, any given position at any given time.
I'm just curious, can you kind of walk us through that final play? What did you see? And when did you kind of see the football and how'd you end up staying in bounds?
Yeah, so, I had a go route. And I can just remember getting off the line, running, thinking like, he might throw this to me, looking, seeing the ball actually in the air, kind of
1 minute
between me and the defender, and seeing the flight of the ball. I didn't think that the defender would see it in time, and I didn't think that I would need to go up and get it because I just didn't feel that it was going to land right that way. So I feel like I could kind of back shoulder it, and I did. As soon as I turned around, kind of missed the ball, and it landed right there. Every time, growing up, I've always tried to get 2 feet in bounds, no matter what level.
30.
I really didn't think to get 2 feet in bounds. I just tried to do what I've been doing my whole life, and I'm so glad that I was able to get 2 feet in bounds.
How did it feel to get a shout out from LeBron James after that making?
Stand by.
First of all,
I felt good. He's my favorite basketball player all time. I think he's the best of all time. So. That felt good that he was watching.
He was the number 1 high school receiving prospect in the country.
In the nation, yes.
If you had to pick, he is one of 2 guys that if you follow the Ohio State program in recruiting that I think they wish they had and thought they had. He is one, and the other one is Stephon Diggs. And I think if those are the 2 guys that they don't miss on many down there. And if you watch Saturday, you confirmed they don't miss on many. And they tried like hell to get them both, but Donovan Peoples-Jones, Urban wanted desperately. He's a 6th-round pick, but you saw it. Kid's a gamer. He is a gamer. Every game they played against Ohio State, Urban said, we can't let that kid beat us. He's too good. And look at the play. Look at not just the play he made, Z, but also go back to the Dallas game in the blocking. Kid's a gamer.
Had to step in against Dallas and came in and pancake blocked on his very first offensive snap in the National Football League. Was a 6th-rounder despite that pedigree you talked about. And I think as he starts to play faster as it goes on, it is going to be fun to watch his development. As I said, Chad O'Shea told me he had mastered the mental part of the game. When you're a 6th rounder, you have to do that, right? To even have a chance to get on the field. But he's not your typical 6th rounder where he's lacking something physically. It just wasn't necessarily there on tape, and I still think there's a little bit of a ways to go to get him to play to his timed speed. And I think that will come with, again, more reps, more comfort. And if that happens, look out. But I think it is amazing that we are going to step back, and I got a little assist from my writer's assistant on this one, and look at this game as how Baker got his groove back. And we're going to look at this game and say Donovan Peoples-Jones, Hollywood Higgins, Harrison Bryant, the Chief were instrumental in that. And then on the final drive, which we'll call at this point the most important drive of the season, maybe, not even hyperbolic, maybe the most important drive of Baker's NFL career, came with him throwing the ball 4 times, twice to Hollywood Higgins, who was an early inactive, twice to Donovan Peoples-Jones, who had not caught a pass from Baker prior to that drive.
Yeah. No, it's wild. It's wild. But this is that culture thing that Coach Stefanski is building. Everyone's ready when their name is called. We've got a score to do. It is Bears at Rams. We'll do that coming up. Before we do, though, Rumpke Waste Recycling is a family-owned and operated business since 1932. They've been in business for 87 years, guys, keeping neighborhoods clean and green. Their customers, employees, and communities, they're all part of the family. You can visit rumpke.com to learn more. Monday night or tonight, we get you set, get you your score. We're doing pretty well. Pretty well. Cleveland Browns. Good. Cleveland.
Down, he drops to throw, he's still bouncing, he's going to go long and deep, down towards the goal line, and it is tipped and knocked into the chest of Sheldrick Redwine, incomplete, and the Browns have won it.
Ready?
Yeah.
You're up.
Nominations for the 2020 Helmets program now being accepted. Zenith invites you to nominate your Ohio high school to receive $25K worth of new Zenith helmets. Visit promotions.clevelandbrowns.com to learn more. I heard Coach this morning talking about that play, saying that's on me not to rush him. He said he didn't think he could throw it that far. I'm like, oh, my God. Send just Miles. Miles gets versus 5 of their guys.
Can I ask you a question, though? Because this is something that I was having a heart attack during that play, because not only do I know, yeah, he's going to throw it into the end zone, but they have 2 6'5" guys. Like,
yeah,
they have bigger guys than we're able to put out there. I was almost thinking maybe we throw Harrison Bryant and Donovan Peoples-Jones and the Chief back there, the 3, just get up there and get the ball down, because we did it. We hit the ball and it slid right back, fortunately, into Redwine. But that's interesting. I just wonder, I know you don't want to give him a chance to return it, and it definitely seemed like the ball was going much further on kicks in the opposite direction of what the direction he kicked at the end. Because when Cody was kicking kickoffs, from my vantage point, left to right, I don't know if that was the TV left to right, it was probably the opposite. He kicked the ones, for example, that Cody kicked completely out of the back of the end zone. This was going in the opposite direction. So I don't know if there was a wind factor to it. But if they had 11 seconds, right?
Yes.
I just want to put him as far back as you can, right?
Yeah.
Worked out, but boy,
tough.
It was
It
tense.
More dicey than it needed to be.
Shades
I'll tell you that.
Aaron Rodgers and the Detroit Lions, which were shades of flashbacks I did not want to be having at any moment.
No. And when it came through, there were 2 Bengals players behind there. Luckily, it hit Redwine in the chest, but I mean, there were 2 guys there on the ricochet for it. They were ready. That was not great.
Knock it down.
Knock it down, man. Knock it down. All right, we've got a Monday Nighter tonight. It's a good one. Bears, I'm looking forward to this. I think this is a fun game. Bears at Rams. Gibby, this is where we are, and Z and I need this to really cap off another strong week out of us, Gibby.
Well, nice to see that Zegura could come back.
I was even last week.
I fully expect you to do this.
I mean, just dominating at this point. We're just dominating this.
I mean,
dominating.
I would say at this point, if you're even, you're losing.
But we're not even.
We're not.
Beau, prior to this week, when we are already guaranteed at worst to each be 3 games over 500, with the potential for even greater or better than that. We're a combined 20 games over 500, and yes, 65% of that does belong to Mr. Bishop.
I'm riding coattails again.
Can I finish the sentence?
Coattails.
Can I finish the sentence?
Listen,
let's go back to year 1, Gibby, when we were both historic. But
that's right. We've always won in this.
No. I was going off of, you said last week you were 500.
Yeah.
And I go back to the whole Tom Coughlin. If you're on time, you're late.
That's the only week.
If you're early, you're on time. You're 500. I mean, you're better than that. So I think it's a loss.
No.
I think it's a big L for you that last week.
That's last week. We're on to this week. We've already won games. We're already in the money this week, Gibby. I don't know what you're trying to
I don't know what you're talking about.
Sounds like somebody who's upset about their over-under performances. And guess what? I had a bad week this week. Don't care. Browns win.
You know what?
The over-unders.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I may have gone a complete goose egg. I can't remember. Baker I may have gotten right. I got 1. Yeah, 1. That's what I thought. I'm fine with it. I talked about a few of them being reverse jinxes.
You had such a huge – it was such a huge – it's
not like Gibby's going to make up that much ground.
No, he didn't.
Eventually.
I picked this game, by the way, at the end of Friday's scores when Gibby was like, hurry up, and I just shouted something out. And I don't remember what I did, but I'm inclined to believe that what I said on Friday would be correct. I just don't remember what it was.
You picked this game Friday?
We picked
Bears, Rams?
No, I did it at the end because he's like, hurry up. And I was like, Seahawks by 1 billion. And then I said, Rams or Bears. Blah, blah. And then that was it. But I don't remember what I said. I don't remember which I chose.
I don't remember that.
Clean slate.
Clean slate. Tabula rasa.
Listen, Bears defense is really good. They're really good.
1 minute.
Had a little something rolling with your boy Nick Foles last week. Rammies, tough to figure out these Rammies. A lot of wins against bad teams. Tough to figure them out. The scores is rather significant.
It's absurd.
Yeah. Rams, 21. Bears, 19.
Same, 30. But different. Nope, this line makes no sense. They just got boat raced by the Niners a week. Makes no sense. And I've already looked it up. Over 90% of the cashish on the Bears. Ram
Is it really?
Ram it.
Oh, wow.
23-14. Robert Woods gives me 4.5 fantasy points. Thank you, Robert.
That's all you need. You're safe. 5-2, kids. 5-2. It's pure joy getting to 5-2. Try to go to 6-2. We start looking ahead to the Raiders tomorrow on the program. Your Victory Monday continues right here on 850 WKNR. Next, the next level is next. Thanks for listening. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850